Hello and welcome to the YouTube video covering several topics related to post-deployment reintegration. I'm Chaplain Jason Frazier, the Home Station Mission Command Chaplain for 1st Armored Division's Combat Aviation Brigade. As we prepare to receive our soldiers back to Fort Bliss, we wanted to provide some assistance to families and friends on specific topics related to reintegration. And this video is not exhaustive. There is no way to cover every possible contingency of what a soldier's spouse, or what a child may go through during this process. So it's important to know the resources that are available to you should you need to reach out during this time of reintegration. Now, each battalion has a unit ministry team that is made up of a chaplain and a religious affairs specialist, and they can assist you with confidential counseling. We also have brigade assets like behavioral health professionals and that are located in the brigade building. We also have an MFLC, a military and family life counseling specialist. This individual is a licensed professional counselor, an LPC. And they can provide individual counseling, couples counseling, and so they're a great resource to utilize as well. We also have the Fort Bliss Family Life Chaplains, which are chaplains specifically trained in counseling techniques, and they're also LPCs like our MFLCs. There are a lot of other great resources. Military One Source. If you feel like you or your soldier are struggling with suicidal issues, thoughts, what we call suicidal ideation, behaviors, call the 988 Suicide Helpline. That is available 24/7. You can also reach out to the Fort Bliss On-Call Chaplains line, and we'll post the links to a lot of these resources, phone numbers, and all of that in the comments below so that you have access to that. If you have an issue with yourself, your service member, or your child, please make sure to use the resources available to help you get the support that you need. The rest of this video is going to be covering specific topics that will help you in relation to reintegration. So we encourage you to watch this video and share it with others that are dealing with reintegration, because this may prove to be a great asset to you as you do that. So stay tuned for the rest of the video. So the first topic we're addressing is stress factors. The stress related to reintegration and how to cope with it. Now, deployment is change, and change is stressful. Leaving your family is not easy, and having your spouse leave, that's not easy. Each person in the family has a role to play, and when one family member is absent, the other has to do all the chores and cover all the responsibilities. So there's no question that the distance is stressful on the soldier, but also on the spouse and on the children just as much. Now, redeployment is also stressful because there are flight delays, there are weather delays, there are unrealistic expectations about what the reunion might be like, and frustration during the entire process of redeployment. Some soldiers may return happy and upbeat and excited to get home with their family. Other soldiers may be agitated, angry, and may seem to be distant. So it's recommended to have a conversation with them prior to their return to see where their emotional and mental state is, and then adapt your expectations. If they're having some negative emotions, some negative feelings, then encourage them to reach out to either their chaplain, the MFLC, or other resources that are available to them now in UCOM that can provide help to them. Soldiers may have a sense of grief over missed time and missed experiences with their spouse and with their children. And many times we think of grief only as relating to someone passing away, but grief is loss, whether it be the loss of life, the loss of a career, the loss of an opportunity, or the loss of time with the people that we love. So understand that grieving is a process, right? It's a 5-step process. It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. And people can be in more than one stage of grief at a time. They can go back and forth in between the stages. And the final stage, acceptance, it's not being okay with the loss, but it's accepting that it has happened and it is part of life now. Soldiers may come back with anger issues. Some may be prone to self-isolation or hide in their bedroom or their game room. They may immerse themselves in video games or other hobbies as an escape from their frustrations. Some may experience depression or resentment. I don't think anybody wanted to be away from their family and their friends, so the key here is to be patient with them. Let them talk about their experiences or frustrations when they're ready. And if you feel they're struggling, reach out to the resources available to you, the MFLC and the chaplain, for help. Now, there is even stress that's created from trying to reconnect with your spouse. Some soldiers may want to go back to the way things were, and this deployment has caused stress and maybe even marital strain. So it's incredibly important to manage your expectations. Many of us have seen reunion videos on the internet, and we want it to be as exciting and wonderful for us as it was for them in that video. But there may be some flights that are delayed, flights that are long, flights that have 5 to 6 different stops on them, and they come back maybe early in the early morning hours without having gotten much sleep at all. So your spouse may be physically exhausted when they see you. And it's important to understand the transition needs to be gradual. The transition back to normal can take 3 to 6 months. So the important key here is give each other some grace as you seek to reconnect. And as I mentioned, there are lots of resources that can assist you. Your unit's chaplain, the MFLC, the Military and Family Life Counselor that we have at our brigade. There will also be special reintegration events, special reintegration training that every soldier will go through as they get reacclimated back to their unit and back to life at home. And there will be marriage retreats. We call them BSRTs. That stands for Building Strong and Ready Teams. These are special retreats for single soldiers as well as for married couples, and they'll assist to help you reintegrate with your family. So make sure that you attend as many events as you can, because there are SFRG events, a Soldier Family Readiness Group, and other events that you hear about that will help you prepare to reconnect and then stay reconnected after you have received your soldier back to you. Now, it's unlikely that your expectation of the reunion will exactly match what actually happens. But it's important to ensure that the reunion ceremony is not a non-event. So we encourage you to make it special. Make them feel missed and appreciated. Make a poster. Bring some flowers. Bring their favorite candy or soda that they couldn't get overseas. The reunion period can be like a honeymoon period all over again. So it can be a time of great reconnection. Let your spouse know ahead of time if something has changed about the routine, about your interests, especially if you have children, their interests, because military life is a life of adjustment. And it's a life of grief because of the transitions and the changes, working late, missing kids' events, and things like that. So give them positive reinforcement when they do something helpful for you and your family. A simple thank you goes a long way. Try to have the home picked up and welcoming for when they arrive. You don't want them stressed out about all the things that you need them to do when they walk in the door. All right. And finally, there will be stress related to the soldier's adjustment back to Fort Bliss. Part of that is readjusting to a time zone, right? They've been traveling for a long period of time, and their time zone is different than mountain time. So there is an adjustment period back to this time zone. There's an adjustment period back to elevation. Maybe where they were is not elevated as high, or maybe it is higher than we are here in El Paso. So the next steps for transitioning back home is that soldiers will go through a morning PT session run by our H2F team. H2F, if you've heard that before, it stands for Holistic Health and Fitness. So these are athletic trainers and they're specialists in all these different physical, mental, and emotional domains that can assist soldiers. So they're going to run a PT session, and then they're going to go through a daily reintegration training. Part of that is finance. Part of that is going to be the UMT training. Part of that is going to be H2F, again, behavioral health. Lots of different relevant and helpful things as the soldier prepares to come back to life as usual. After that training, then they will be released. And so after changing 8 to 9 hours of time zones and a dozen or more hours of travel and waiting, they may need to sleep. So maybe don't plan a barbecue the minute they return. Plan it for a weekend or two afterwards. The goal here is try not to spring things on them or surprise them with too much. It takes time to adjust, and too much change can be difficult without pushing back on some of it. The next module we're going to cover, the next topic we're going to cover is communication techniques and how to have respectful communication. Our second section today, we're covering communication techniques and having respectful conversation. Now, communication both ways should always be respectful, patient, and loving. You've chosen to spend the rest of your life with this person, and the way you speak to them will be the way your children speak to them and their future spouses. So it's incredibly important to ensure communication is at all times respectful and loving. It may be tempting to just unload all of the frustrations over the past 9 months onto one another, but it's overwhelming and it's not good communication. In one of the marriage retreat events I teach something called the speaker-listener technique. And one person is the speaker, and they keep their statements to 2 to 4 sentences. The person who's the listener summarizes then what they heard to ensure they heard it correctly. And then the speaker has an opportunity to say, yes, that's correct, or corrects whatever was misunderstood. And then the speaker continues a few more times until they've finished communicating their concerns, their issues, and the frustrations. Each time the listener summarizes, okay, if I heard you correctly, this is what I think that you said. And then the speaker says, yes. And so that's why, blah, blah, blah. And so this continues, right? Then it switches so that the listener becomes the speaker, and then they get to address some of the concerns that have been brought up. It's important to take turns multiple times. Now, this is not for the, hey, what do you want to eat tonight conversations, the low threat issues. But it can be extremely helpful for the higher stress issues like in-laws and future plans, concerns about connection. I don't like it when you do this, or I don't feel respected or appreciated when you say things like that. Any disagreement that you think might get a little heated, that is ideal for this type of technique, the speaker-listener technique, because each person gets a chance to talk while the other person actively listens and summarizes so that you can tell they're clearly listening. And then each person gets their turn to say what they want to say. Now, the tricky part is, it's hard not to interrupt as the listener, but it's important to be patient because your turn to speak will happen. This way, both partners get a chance to speak and they get to hear the other person's perspective. But here is the most important thing to understand, especially in kind of medium threat conversations. The goal is not agreement. We would love it if our partner agreed with us all the time, but life would be super boring if that were the case. Right? The goal is not agreement. The goal is understanding. Despite all the great and convincing reasons my spouse might provide me, I may never agree with her because we see the world through different lenses. We have different life experiences, but I can understand her perspective, and then we can look for what is a win-win scenario as a couple. A helpful technique is also communicating events and schedules. And you can do this by having a shared calendar on your phone. This way you can see, as a spouse, you can see the soldiers' work schedule, the meetings they've got going on, or the things that they're templated to be attending or at or whatever. Like, you can have an idea as far as when their free time is. They can see the events that are going on with you and your kids. And if there are events that are important for your spouse to attend, then you make sure that that is communicated so they can prioritize them. Also communicate what has changed with what has changed with you. What has changed with the decorations around the house? Hey, that wasn't there when I left. What has changed with the kids? What do they like now that they didn't like before, or what do they definitely don't like now that they used to like before? So that your spouse isn't coming home and saying, "Hey, let's go throw baseball," and your kid is like, "I hate baseball now." So communicate what has changed, even with the routines. Bath time for the kids might have changed. The wind down routine around the house might have changed. What shows you enjoy, or what shows your kids enjoy, might have changed. So I highly discourage starting any conversation with, "Hey, notice anything different?" It sets the person up for failure. It's best to say something like, "Hey, I changed this because," and then go into the reason behind it. But remember that it's their house and it's their family too. So if you feel like that they might not like the change, feel free to add something along the lines of, "I'm open to talking about it and hearing your opinion." That communicates there's a partnership, which is what a healthy marriage is. It's also really important not to give into or get into comparison. Yes, spouses, you have had to step up and you have had to do the job of two while your spouse was gone. And while listening to our spouse, if they're complaining, it's important to just listen and provide emotional support. Spouses may be tempted to feel like, "You know what, I've done this without you and I don't need you." Or they may feel the opposite end of the spectrum, like, "I'm not doing this for one more day. Here's the kids, I'm going to Vegas for a week." You've got to find that happy medium to incorporate them back into life and back into the rhythm of your family. Make them feel important to the family. You may need to provide them with gentle reminders to guard family time. You can talk about having a cell phone-free dinner time. Before their return, have conversations about how to integrate, updating them and including them on the routine that is part of your family now. They may want to come back and get right back into their hobbies at the expense of family time. And so I think it's perfectly acceptable for you to request limits on video games or hobbies without treating them like a child. Right? You can say things like, "Hey, babe, take an hour and play your video games. I'll call you when dinner's ready, and then let's have dinner together and spend some time together as a family." Or you can say something like, "Hey, I need your help on this later on. Can you plan on finishing your game," or whatever it is, "in an hour and then help me with this?" You're acknowledging their need to decompress a little, requesting there be a reasonable time limit, and then inviting them back into the family and inviting you to help you. Now, if they resist, if they push back, try talking to them about it with patience, love, and grace. If that doesn't work, reach out to your unit chaplain or the MFLC to schedule some time for the both of you to come in and discuss how reintegration is working and what can be done. If you feel like you're being talked to by someone who reports to him or her, gently remind them you're not a service member, unless you're dual military, but unless you are, you're not a service member. You're their spouse, you're their partner. And it takes time for soldiers to come back from that kind of mentality and get out of deployment mode. So again, be patient with the adjustment period, because some transitions can take months to fully resume back into a normal routine. A great resource, and I have it down here, get involved and attend events. A great resource that chaplains put on is a BSRT. I mentioned it in the intro part of the video. It stands for Building Strong and Ready Teams. It was previously called Strong Bonds. But Strong Bonds kind of became a marriage retreat, and BSRTs are events that are also for single soldiers as well as married soldiers. And so some of them are single-day events, some of them are overnight events. They're off-site. And so a chaplain leads training on relationships, on stress management, on communication, on personality types, love language styles, lots of topics. They're a nice break from work, and they're very enriching to the soldier and to the couple that participates. I will tell you, though, as a caution, that BSRTs are not for couples in crisis. They are enrichment events. They are not intervention events. So if your marriage is struggling, get to the chaplain, get to the MFLC, get to the family life chaplain as quickly as possible. Ideally, don't wait to go to counseling. Don't wait to see your chaplain until when there are finally pretty massive problems. Try to be proactive, right? Prevention is better and more effective than intervention. So utilize these BSRT events, SFRG events, lots of events happen across the post, across the area, to get connected and to stay connected with your spouse. If you hear of a BSRT event, or tell your soldier, hey, make sure that if they schedule a BSRT event, sign us up for that, because there are specific slots that are available based on the amount of funding that we get. And so when the slots are full, you have to wait for the next time to go around. So that is our section on communication techniques. Next, we will talk about individual growth during your time apart. The third thing we want to talk about today is individual growth during time apart. You definitely learn what you're made of when you have to spend this much time apart. And it can be an opportunity to develop your resiliency skills. And see, resiliency is how to bounce back from adversity and difficulty. Hopefully you've learned a lot about yourself and you've grown in your resiliency skills while your spouse has been gone. There are many tools available to you on the internet. A lot of them are free, which we'll highlight here in just a moment. And they help you learn more about your personality, and they can assist with your self-development. One of them that is very popular is called the Enneagram test. It can provide personality insights and can be very eye-opening into how you are wired, how you respond to adversity, how you communicate, and many other aspects. There are paid versions of this, but the link to the free test and the resources will be listed in the comments of the video. You can find it at 9types.com. They have the free test. It's called the RETI test, R-H-E-T-I, named after the people who invented it. And so you have the link to the free test there, and you have lots of resources. Once you find out what type you are, you can discover so much about your strengths and weaknesses and how you can communicate, how you live life, how your brain, your personality is wired. Another great resource to develop yourself is the free love languages quiz. This shows you what your love language is: acts of service, physical touch, quality time. And so if your partner takes the test as well, you can learn how to speak your partner's love language as they learn to speak yours. It's found at the number 5, lovelanguages.com/quizzes. The test is free, and they'll tell you what your love language is. Now, there are lots of books that are available. The love languages for military, the love languages book, the 5 love languages book by Gary Chaplain. And so these are great resources that are available, but these two are totally free for you to learn more about yourself. And obviously, if your soldier takes these tests as well, you can learn more about them, how to speak their love language, how to communicate through their love language, what to do, what not to do, how to leverage it to grow as a couple. Now, I'd like to touch on one more thing here that I think is an incredibly important piece of this puzzle when we talk about individual growth and then obviously coming together as couple growth. Before you were married, you had an individual identity, and your spouse had their individual identity. It was your life, it was your routine, it was your hobbies, your priorities, your likes, your dislikes, among many, many other things. And when you got married, your individual identity didn't become their identity. So it's two people who come together and create an us identity, a couple identity. When we will retain elements of our individual identity, but when we come together as a married couple, we should seek ways to help our spouse grow, to help them improve and thrive in the marriage, as they should seek ways to do the same for us. I love this quote, and I use it often in my marriage retreats. I believe it is attributed to Diane Sawyer, and the quote is, "Marriage is a contest of generosity." So we should try to outlove them, outgive them, outserve our partner. When both people do that, when that's their mentality, our needs within the marriage are met, and the temptation to look elsewhere for those needs to be met loses its power. The fourth module we're going to discuss is navigating changes and creating routines. Our fourth topic is how to navigate changes, how to create new routines. If this was your first time being away from your spouse for this long, you've had to learn some independence without them. Can you go back to the couple routine? Yes, but there is definitely an adjustment period. So the important thing is commit to good and respectful communication and be patient. Don't be quick to accuse each other of disinterest in reconnecting, but seek to understand the perspective of the other person. While overseas, they may have been glad they didn't have to take out the trash or mow the lawn or whatever chore that they normally do when they're home. But now they're back, and now it's time to ask them and invite them to join the family's routine. You don't want them feeling useless, so ask them if they'll do certain chores that either they did before they left or that you need help with. It's also important not to let things become a battle of who's had it harder over the past 9 months. It's been hard on both of you, so resist the temptation to keep score and use that against them. It's not a competition. You both have different roles. They didn't have a choice to stay home with you. They had orders and had to obey them. This lifestyle comes at a cost. There's a cost to the service member, yes, but there's also a cost to the spouse and the children. I recommend that you update your spouse before they return on things that the kids like, what they like to watch, what they like to do, so that they can connect. And we'll talk a little bit more in the next section about specifically relationships with children and parents. But you want to make sure that they reconnect with their kids just as much as they're reconnecting with you. One idea that came up in one of our SFRG events was start filling a mason jar with questions that you and your kids would like to ask them. These questions can be anything, like be creative. It could be something like, what's the grossest thing you had to eat? What's the longest you went without sleep? What did you enjoy most about your time over there? Or describe a time that you laughed the hardest. And write questions that your spouse can ask you and your kids along those lines as well. There are Q&A decks, question and answer decks of cards on internet retailers, and they have conversation starters. So if you struggle to know where to begin and what to talk about, those can be a great resource for you as you have lighthearted conversations, icebreaker type questions. What flavor of ice cream do you miss the most? Things like this. Or they can be a little bit deeper and more meaningful as you start to reconnect. So there are great resources that are available to you that are on Amazon and other internet retailers. You just have to search Q&A decks and discussion starters, discussion decks of cards, things of that nature, and they can be really, really helpful as you bring them back into the family and create the new routine. Our family, we do it usually, we try to do it every night, but we certainly try to do it once or twice a week at least. Go through some questions and say, hey, What do you think the hardest part about being a parent is? And it's interesting when you hear your child respond, and we go all the way around the table, and we as parents get to say, well, this is what I think the hardest part about being a parent is. And so it can be a great conversation tool and a great way to reconnect. I encourage you, have dinner time as a family. Sit around the table together and eat dinner together, because it pays off in the end. And we'll discuss more of that in this next part. The fifth topic we're covering today is relationships between children and parents. If you have a young child, the reunion ceremony can create unexpected stress. I was at one where the soldier deployed when the child was 6 to 9 months old. When the soldier returned 9 months later, the child wouldn't go to him because he didn't really know him. And this was very difficult for the soldier and the spouse. So prepare the child as best as possible with pictures of your spouse. Some have let them sleep on their side of the bed while they were gone, or sleep with an item that was theirs that smells like them. FaceTiming or video chatting is helpful to reduce the risk of a child not wanting to go to them, because then they recognize them. Some small children can even regress in potty training and other developmental milestones because of the stress related to reunion. But the key is patience for everyone. Life will return to normal. Some kids are super resilient and they just pick up where things left off. But usually long absences can take weeks and months to adjust. Kids can be super clingy, demonstrating a fear of the soldier leaving again. They can almost appear to favor the soldier over you. But it's just a reaction of time that has been lost. Make sure to integrate your spouse in as many of the daily routines as possible. They may feel like outsiders coming home, strangers in their own home when they first return. One idea is to have your soldier make good night and good morning videos where the kids can see their face. You can schedule more video chatting and FaceTiming calls leading up to the reunion with your soldier and the kids. I highly encourage, as I mentioned in the previous section, I highly encourage family meals around the dinner table with the TV and devices off. Every once in a while, a movie night at dinner time on the couch, around the TV is fine, but studies repeatedly show that kids who have dinner with their family around the dinner table perform better in school, have fewer discipline issues, and are better adjusted children. One thing you can do at the dinner table is go around and ask, what was the best part of your day? And then as it makes it all the way around, ask, what was the worst part of your day? And this encourages connection and conversation. When the soldier returns, especially if you have more than one child, have them take a day where they spend one-on-one time with each child. They can go out for ice cream, grab a snow cone, or do something that each child enjoys as they reconnect. Then the next day that's available, do it with the next child. This gives uninterrupted time to each child where they will feel important, and it fosters connection. If your child is in public school, you can prepare their teacher and their school counselor for the reunion. Giving them the heads up allows them to observe the child for any signs of withdrawal or behavioral issues that might be related to the stress of the upcoming reunion or the stress after the reunion. There is a possibility that your child won't want to go to bed to make sure mom and dad will still be there in the morning and not leave again. The key is patience. Be patient with them and understand this has been hard on them too. Having your soldier create a bedtime routine where they tuck them in, read them a story, say a prayer for them, or get the room ready for them to go to sleep can help. They might get up every 5 minutes, peeking around the corner to make sure your spouse is still there, and it can get irritating. But the key word is, especially for the first week or two, maybe even the first month, is patience. Be patient with your soldier, be patient with your kids, and be patient with your own adjustment. It takes time. With older children, understand that teenagers reintegrate differently. Some may seem to be distant and push your spouse away, but they do secretly want them to be at their games, at their track meets, at their events. They do want them there, supporting. If you want to communicate love, it's spelled T-I-M-E, time. We give our time to the things that we love. And so when we give our time to our kids, we're communicating that we love them. So, as I mentioned in a previous video, the teenagers can take the love languages quiz as well. And that can be very beneficial to you, so you learn how to communicate love, support, and security to them. This next section, we're going to talk about spiritual resiliency. How do we bounce back from difficult things using our spirituality? In this section, we're going to talk about spiritual resilience. And I know you're probably thinking, you're only talking about this because you're a chaplain. But the reality is, I am talking about this because I have gone through some life events that if I did not have spiritual resilience, I would not have made it through those events. Spiritual resilience is the ability to lean into your spirituality, to rebound when bad things happen. Now, I'll give you a personal example. On July 4th, 2014, my dad was murdered during a home invasion. The day before, he had picked up my kids and he had taken them to get ice cream. Overnight, a man who was high on drugs tried to break into my dad's house. An altercation ensued and my dad was shot and killed. You can't prepare for trauma like that. So how do you recover from it? Moments like that are not trivial. It was the darkest moment of my life. However, for me, my spirituality was what got me through. And studies repeatedly demonstrate how a person's strong spirituality helps them through illness, divorce, and grief. Whether that's the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, the loss of an opportunity, or the loss of anything that's important to you. Spirituality has been shown to help people through depression, overcoming addiction, and so many other areas. But when you go through difficulty, you need to already have your spirituality strong. Waiting until bad things happen to engage your spirituality slows your healing process. So it's highly encouraged to engage in spiritual readiness. Being engaged with your spirituality and the spiritual disciplines before bad things happen. Now, some people push back because they don't consider themselves religious or spiritual. FM 722 tells us, and this is direct quote, religion may be described as a set of beliefs concerning a divine or transcendent cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, typically accompanied with devotional and ritual observances, going to church, praying, stuff like that, along with an accompanying moral code governing the conduct of human affairs. That's FM 722, paragraph 10-7. Everyone has a set of moral beliefs, how they view right and wrong in the world. And wherever they got that set of moral beliefs or moral code from is their religion. Even a person who consider themselves as not religious, that unreligion becomes their religion because everyone has beliefs, values, and a moral code from somewhere. So it's important as we look at our spirituality and moral code and develop them before we hit times of stress, personal hardship, and tragedy. People exercise their spirituality in various ways. Some examples are mindfulness, quiet time, solitude, journaling, memorizing verses from their sacred text, devotional reading, fitness, spending time in nature, hobbies, books, church attendance, fellowship with people of similar faith, and so many other ways. Spirituality also helps us find meaning in life. It helps us understand our place in the world and how we are connected to the world around us. For some people, the meaning for their life is found in professional accomplishments. For some, it's found in increasing the good in the world. For some, it's connected to having kids. And for some, it's a connection to the divine. Spirituality, our sense of moral, our personal beliefs, our moral code, and our belief or disbelief in religious ideas, that affects our relationships. It affects our family, our career, and it helps us answer the big questions in life, like what happens to me after I die, and what am I living for, and what legacy am I leaving? Spirituality helps us live with the purpose and helps us make good decisions. If we have a strong moral code against stealing, then we're not going to steal, even when the opportunity presents itself. The same is true for adultery, for abuse, and so many other moral and ethical things. Strong morals and ethics prevents us from harming others, and those are formed from our spirituality. So when we talk about spiritual readiness, spiritual resiliency, and spirituality, they're not just topics for people who go to church. They're for everyone, because all of us have a set of beliefs and a moral code that helps guide our actions. If you want to learn more about this, contact me or your spouse's unit chaplain to learn more about the topic of spiritual resiliency and spirituality. And we will end this video with a final segment covering a couple general questions that we've been asked, and hopefully those answers will prove helpful for you. I wanted to end this video with, as I mentioned at the very, very beginning, this video could never be exhaustive in all the topics and all the issues that we might face. So if you have questions, you can feel free to comment below, and we will either create a follow-up video or do our best to answer the comments that we receive, any questions, concerns you may have. We did get some questions that were asked to us at recent events, and there were 3 specific ones that I felt like didn't kind of fall into the category, or the explanation didn't fall into the category of any of the other topics. So just 3 general questions that I felt like were worthy of immediate responses here. One spouse asked a question. She said, how do we receive communication about reunion ceremonies and the reunion events? Well, because of operational security, or OPSEC, we don't list the arrival times and locations of flights, certainly not on any public venue, because we have to protect the troop movements. But we will push out the information regarding when and where the reunion ceremonies will be. There are several avenues of communication that are being looked at to share this information. I would strongly encourage you, though, to find out, get connected with your battalion SFRG. A lot of these SFRGs have their own Facebook pages. They have internal communications. They have ways to pass out, push out times and locations for the reunion ceremony. So make sure that you are connected. The SFRG cannot contact you without approval, without consent. So you or your spouse, your soldier, needs to pass on your contact info to the SFRG, and then they can reach out to you. So if you've wondered, hey, why hasn't my SFRG contacted me? Well, if no one gave them your information, they can't. So reunion ceremonies will be communicated through several methods. Make sure that your spouse who is forward gets you that information, what flight they're coming back on, and then we can pass out some information. But always ensure you do not post anything publicly, because we obviously do not want to have to delay a flight any longer than necessary because a flight hit time was publicized on the internet. And to protect those soldiers on that flight, the flight will be pushed and the time will be changed, or the location may be changed. So don't publicize any information that you are not allowed to publish. Understand that flights move left and right. Like sometimes they come in earlier, sometimes they come in later. So There are issues with weather. There are issues with equipment. There are issues with having to pick up somebody and drop off somebody at different locations. So prepare yourself for delays. Even at the reunion ceremony, I would encourage every spouse, bring a book, bring games for your kids, backup chargers for electronic devices, favorite snacks, favorite drinks. There will be some resources at the hangar available to you, bottled water, some games, and some stuff for you and your kids. But understand, our priority is to get them back to you as quickly as we can. Try to regulate your emotions as best as possible and prepare for delays. I always like to say, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. Another spouse asked a question, how can we help welcome home single soldiers? Well, I think we can do it in at least two ways. The first is at the reunion ceremony. Families will be so excited to see their service member, and you can have tunnel vision when it comes to reuniting with them. But some soldiers will come home and they won't have any family or friends at the ceremony. So I encourage you that if you see a soldier by themselves, make a deliberate effort to welcome them back. That little bit of encouragement will go a long way to helping them not feel invisible when many others have their families greeting them. The second way is that understand that single soldiers are coming back to a barracks room with only furniture. They will get their household goods returned to them, but those won't be in their rooms the day they arrive. That gets scheduled for later. So they will only have what they packed in their bags. The USO is providing a welcome home pack for single soldiers that, from the last I was told, includes a pack of ramen noodles, a fork, a few snacks, a shaving razor, a pack of laundry detergent, lip balm, and a USO welcome home flyer. I know that battalions are coordinating with their SFRG groups to adopt a single soldier or adopt a barracks room. The goal there is to provide a few things that they will need on day one, because when they come to their barracks room, there will not be a shower curtain liner in their shower. There won't be toilet paper or paper towels or anything. That was cleaned, and they did maintenance on the barracks rooms, and it's empty except for the necessary furniture that belongs in that barracks room. So some SFRG events are coordinating, providing some of those necessary first night items that they may need when they first arrive. So if you want to help, reach out to your SFRG either at the battalion or the brigade level, and we can get you some help. We'll gladly get you to help this endeavor. And the third question that came up is, how can we help soldiers that are struggling with food issues? Well, the CAB DFAC, the dining facility, will open at normal operating hours, but we know there will be some soldiers that will be coming in overnight, and so the Shopette won't be open, the Freedom Crossing won't be open, and the DFAC won't be open at overnight hours, right? So there are some soldiers who will come back with who will need some assistance with food. There are several resources in the El Paso area that can help, and I will list them below, and all of the hyperlinks to as many of these organizations as I can find. The Junior Enlisted Food Pantry is located just inside the Cassidy Gate on Main Post. And it is not just a resource for junior enlisted soldiers, but it's for anyone who needs assistance. And they have a variety of resources, not just food there as well. They have lots of other things available as well. There is also the CAB H2F Food Pantry, which is in our brigade's footprint. So on the street where the brigade headquarters and all the COFs, the brigade like motor pool areas, on the same street as that, where Mendoza Clinic is, right across the street from that, we have our H2F office, and they have a food pantry. So that is a resource if your soldier has food issues, or if you know especially of a single soldier who's having food issues. There is a ministry or an organization in El Paso called El Pasoans Fighting Hunger. It's a resource that's off post that provides food assistance. If there is an emergency situation and it requires, and that emergency situation causes a food shortage, the soldier can contact their chaplain to request a commissary gift card. Now, these are subject to availability. If you like to help, you can donate to the food card for the chaplains to distribute, which I'll include the information below. And there's also you can donate to these organizations that help soldiers and folks in El Paso. So, as always, reach out to your chaplain to see how you can help. We hope that this video has been informative and helpful as you prepare to reintegrate with your spouse. As I said earlier, feel free to comment any questions. If you'd like a follow-up video on a specific topic or you'd like a response, feel free to comment on this video and we will do our best to provide a response to you. And that's it. So we hope that it's been beneficial to you. We hope that you have a great reintegration with your service member or spouse. And if you don't, and if you have struggles and you need assistance, please use the resources that are accessible to you. And it can all start with the chaplain, with the MFLC, with behavioral health, with the chain of command. If, as I said at the very beginning, if you feel like you're concerned for your soldiers' mental and emotional health and you feel like that they may be having suicidal ideas and struggles, please reach out to call 988 and reach out to the resources that are available here at Fort Bliss. So we look forward to engaging with you and helping your soldier reintegrate back to Fort Bliss.